Hey y'all. So today I will be walking you through how to check your case status and your processing time so that you know what's going on in your case at all times. I will also be giving you sample case statuses so that you know how to decipher it when you see it on your particular case. Okay. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney, Lillian, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. So let's jump right in, okay? First thing I want to show you is how how to actually check your case status, because most of the time when people call me, they already have a case going on. What they really want to know is what's going on with my case. Why haven't I heard anything from USCIS? Oh, why is this case status this for 3 months, 5 months, and it hasn't changed? What is going on? Well, first, I'm going to show you how to check your case status, and then I'm going to help you decipher your case status. All right. To check your case status, the first thing you need is your receipt number. Okay. So, depending on how many forms you filed. So, let's say you're filing for a green card and you filed an I-130 and an I-485 and an I-765. Guess what? You would need to check your case status for each of those cases, because just checking your case status for one of them does not show you what's going on with the others. Okay. So even if you file forms together, you have to check the case status separately. So remember, you need your receipt notice. Okay. That's where you're going to find your receipt number. So the receipt notice is the first thing USCIS sends you when you file your case. So once you file your I-130, your I-485, your I-765, whatever it is, your N-400, whatever you file, you are going to receive a receipt notice. Basically, that's USCIS telling you, we received your application, we accept your application. Now we're going to go through the process of processing your application. So once you receive that, you can start checking your case status. And you do that by going to the USCIS.gov website. All right. So this is what it looks like once you get on there. Let me see if I can make this bigger for y'all. So once you get on here, what you need to do, is go down to where it says manage your case. You can click on check your case status. And from here, they actually just changed the website. So this used to look completely different. So it still has some bugs, but it works. If you need to check more than one case status, though, it does have a bug, and you need to refresh your page and then enter the new case status for it to come, the new receipt number for the case status to come up. All right. So once you know your receipt number, you can enter it right here, and it will then tell you what your case status is right up here. So that is the easiest way for you to check your case status online. Now, if you want to take it a step further, right? If you want to take it a step further, you can go ahead and create a USCIS online account. An online account allows you to actually get notifications when there's a change in your case status. So that is a step further than just filing, but then just checking your case status on the USCIS website. All right. If you have an online account, you can actually be notified when there is a change in your case status. So that's another really great thing about that. Having an online account also allows you to respond to requests for evidence on the online account. So you can just upload it instead of mailing it in. The only thing that you cannot upload is when USCIS is asking you for the original document, not a copy of the original, but the actual original. And when they ask you for your medical report. Those are the two things that you generally cannot upload on the online account. But it's really a good idea to have the online account, especially if you know you want to stay on top of your case. If you're not working with a lawyer that's going to stay on top of your case for you, this is a good way to do that. Is you can check your case status online, and you can also create the online account so that you can get notified when there's a change. Now, something I want to share with you all is different case statuses, right? So you go online, you put your receipt number in, you see a case status. What does that actually mean, right? Some of it is very intuitive. Like when you see it, you know exactly what it is, and some of it is not, okay? So I'm going to be sharing with you the ones that are not as intuitive, right? So here is one of the, let's go back one slide. So this is a status, right? When you put in your receipt number, you'll get a case status. This is a sample case status. It basically says, we received your case and we send you a receipt notice. Every time you file your case and you put in your receipt number immediately, this is usually the only thing you will see is your case was received and the receipt notice was sent. If you're filing an I-130 for a spouse, a child, a parent, a sibling that's outside of the US, this is going to be the case status for a very long time. So this is going to be your case status right around until they are ready to make a decision on your case. So if they're ready to make a decision on your case, the case status may change, or the next case status after this may just be, oh, we approved your case, or we sent you a request for evidence, right? So this case status, you may see this for many, many months as your status. It does not mean that anything is wrong. It does not mean that you have to do anything. It just means they received it. They just haven't gotten to processing it yet, okay? So when you see this, where it says case was updated to show fingerprints were taken, this means you have went to your biometrics appointment. So if you're filing for citizenship, a green card, work authorization, travel permit, and all of those things that require you to get fingerprinted, you are going to get a biometrics notice that tells you where and when to go for your fingerprinting. And once you do that, your case status is going to change to this, right? It's going to change to show that you have one and got your fingerprints taken. So that's a good thing. That means that what you did is reflecting in their system. Now the case is being actively reviewed by USCIS, is the bane of my existence, okay? This case status is horrible. It doesn't mean anything, okay? I'm sorry, but it really does not mean anything, because you can see this where it says case is being actively reviewed. This is from June, right? This says June 9th. Let me make this bigger so you can see it even better. So this is June 9th. It says case is being actively reviewed on June 9th. April 25th, case is being actively reviewed. February, hold on, let me see if I have none. Okay, so when you have cases being actively reviewed by USCIS, it does not mean that they are any closer to making a decision on your case, to scheduling you for an interview, nothing. It does not mean anything. Because guess what? I checked all these case statuses that I'm showing you. I checked all of them today, right? This is pulled from a few hours ago. So a case that was actively being reviewed since April 25th is still actively being reviewed. This one from June 9th is still being actively reviewed. So when I say this case status means nothing as far as how long you have to wait for your, for a decision to be made on your case, it really means nothing. All right. Another one that means nothing is case is ready to be scheduled for an interview. It means nothing. This is from February 3rd, 2022. February 3rd, 2022. And it still says case is ready to be scheduled for an interview. Has it been scheduled for an interview? No. But that's what the case status says. So when you see these case statuses, do not freak out. Do not, if it's been a month, 2 months, a year, do not freak out. It just means that's the last thing that was updated on their end, right? If it's ready to be scheduled for an interview, it means that an officer looked at the file. They're like, yep, looks ready. And they put it on a pile that will eventually be scheduled for an interview. It just means that no one else needs to review it for it to be scheduled for an interview. All right. It does not mean that you are going to get an interview anytime soon, because remember, there's still the processing time for these cases. All right. So just when you see these things, also look at the processing time to see how far into it you are, to see how much weight to put to this. Another one is another case status you may see is that interview was scheduled. This will tell you, if you have the online account where you can get notified immediately when something is sent, to look out for this mail, so that if you do not get this, you are contacting USCIS immediately to find out where is my interview notice, right? Where is it, so that I know where to go and when to go for this interview. So just keep an eye on things like biometrics was scheduled, things like interview was scheduled, things like request for evidence was sent, notice of intent to deny was sent. So all those things that will require you to do something, right? They're not passive. A request for evidence, an interview notice, a biometrics notice, a notice of intent to deny, those things require action from you. In those situations, if you do not get your notice, you need to contact USCIS immediately, right? If you do not get your notice within 2 weeks of this case status changing, you need to contact USCIS and have them send you that, resend the receipt notice, or to resend the notice to you, because again, time is of the essence. If you have an interview scheduled a month out and you still don't have your interview notice, how would you know that? So if you check the online case status and it says interview was scheduled, make sure you get your interview notice. If you don't, contact USCIS, okay? And then if you respond to a request for evidence, it will reflect, once they receive your response, they will update it to response to the request for evidence was received. If you send your request and it's been a couple weeks and this status is not, updated, there's no update to your case status, it still says request for evidence was sent, it may be helpful to contact USCIS to just make sure if there is, if it's that they received it and it wasn't updated, okay? And when you're sending those responses to request for evidence, to give yourself peace of mind, okay? To give yourself peace of mind, make sure you're tracking it. So when you mail it, make sure there's tracking so you can see that it was actually delivered, all right? So keep that in mind. So again, some of these statuses mean nothing. Some of them are very important. So you need to keep an eye on the very important ones, which is interview was scheduled, request for evidence was sent, notice of intent to deny was sent, because those have a deadline. Biometrics notice was sent. Those have a deadline. So you want to make sure that you are meeting those deadlines. All right. So the next thing I want to cover with you all is how to check your your processing time. This is something that a lot of people, again, what to do. My case has been pending for like 2 weeks. When am I going to get a decision? Well, let's show you how to actually check it. All right. You need to go on the USCIS website again, because that's the start of everything USCIS. All right. The website is the start to everything USCIS. So if you are not familiar with the USCIS.gov website, get familiar, okay? Because that is a great way to stay on top of things. They will post any updates and news, so you can see what new thing is going on there as well. And as always, you can create an online account. I just have to tell you, you can create an online account. Now, again, when you're here, you go straight down to manage your case, okay? Manage your case is where you get the case status and check the processing time. Checking the processing time is a rough idea of how long your case could possibly take, okay? If your case is going to take, a year and you want to wait, a few more months before filing, okay. If your case is going to take, if the processing time for, citizenship for where you live is like 2 years, you may want to file as soon as you qualify, right? So that's what the processing time really helps you figure out. Now, when you file an application with USCIS, it will show up here, right? One of these has to be your application. If you're checking your case status, if you're checking the processing time, all right, it will be on this list. If it's not on this list, it may not have been filed with USCIS. All right, so every single form with USCIS is on this list. So the one that people want to know the most is the I-130. Now, if you are filing a green card application with an I-130 in the US, the I-130 is not the processing time you want to check. Let me repeat that because sometimes this does get confusing. So let me repeat it. If you are filing a green card application in the US with an I-130, when you want to check the processing time, do not check the processing time for the I-130, check the processing time for the green card application, the I-485, because they will be processed together because you filed it concurrently. And the processing time of the green card application is going to trump the processing time of the I-130 because the officer that decides the green card application also decides the I-130. So look at the processing time for the I-485 if you file concurrently. If you didn't file concurrently, then you want to really check the processing time for the I-130. So if you're filing for someone outside of the US or where there's a visa not immediately available, you want to check this. So one, we can check US citizen filing for a spouse, parent, or child that's under 21. We can do California Service Center. That's taking 14 and a half months at the California Service Center. Now, how do you figure out the field office or the service center? That's the next question people have. Well, on your receipt notice, it will tell you the service center, right? At the very, very bottom of the first page of your receipt notice, it will have a return address. And that address will be for the service center. And most of the time, it will tell you which specific service center, right? It may be California, Nebraska, National Benefits Center. All of these may show up on there. So just keep those in mind as you are looking at it. Don't just check any old service center, because if you check Nebraska, Nebraska may have a completely different processing time, or the National Benefits Center, which I know has a completely different processing time, right? So you want to really look at your specific receipt notice for the I-130 and look for that service center at the very bottom of the receipt notice, and it will tell you what your service center, or if it's at the National Benefits Center, and you're able to check that processing time here. Now, if you are filing a green card application, I-485, right, based on family, and now it wants to know where is your field office, right? This is the crazy part, because you're expected to know your field office. Most people don't. Most people don't know which field office, unless there's only one in your state or something like that, then you would easily know where your field office is. But basically, it's trying to figure out which office, which local office is going to actually do your interview, if there's an interview to be had for the green card application. All right, so if you are in Massachusetts, there's only two options, Boston or Lawrence. If you're in New York, you have more options, but if you live in Albany, you only have one option, right? So it's so important to know where you are and what field offices are around you. So for example, if you just pick, if you're like, I live in New York, so I'm just gonna pick whatever field office I want that's in New York, and you just go here and you click on Albany, okay, Albany has 17 and a half months, right? 80% of the cases in Albany are decided in 17 and a half months. However, if you go to Brooklyn, again, depending on where you live in New York, your field office is going to be different. Brooklyn is 28 and a half months. You cannot just change your field office unless you move out of the jurisdiction. So if you live in Brooklyn and you want Albany's processing time, you need to move to Albany and live in Albany for like 6 months. Right? It's not just you can't just pick and choose just because it's in the same state, right? So it has to be where you actually live. So your mailing address is not what it's based on, right? Your field office is not based on your mailing address, it's based on your physical address. So keep that in mind. So if you do move, let's say you are in Brooklyn, let's just keep that example, and you get a new job in Buffalo, and you want to move, you have to move to Buffalo for your job. You permanently move from Brooklyn to Buffalo, you need to update your, you need to do a change of address with USCIS, basically telling them that you're moving from Brooklyn to Buffalo, and then they will change your field office, right? So the field office, again, is based on where you actually live, not where you get your mail. All right. So this is how you will check that. Now let's stick with Buffalo. If you have filed your green card application, you're in Buffalo, it says 13 months. 80% of cases are decided in 13 months. And let's say you filed it in what? Let's do June 1st, 2022, right? Yeah, that should give us at least 13 months. And you filed it June 1st, 2022. That's the date that they received your application. Again, that date will be on your receipt notice. You put it here. They still haven't scheduled you for an interview. They haven't done anything on your case, and you want to call them and yell at them, right? Before you yell at them, go here. So it's still on the same page that you checked your processing time. You live in Buffalo. It says it's 13 months, and you still haven't received anything, and it's been more than 13 months. So you click on this. It tells you when you can actually contact them to ask questions. So even though it says 13 months, this is the problem. So it says 13 months. However, they have created this new thing where you can actually see what is the actual processing time, right? Because right now, even though it says 13 months, it's still telling me that it's still within the normal processing time. And I can't ask them questions until November. But you saw up there that it says 13 months. Right. So this is a great way to see what the actual processing time is, not what they tell you the processing time is. Because if it's still within the normal processing time and I cannot ask you questions until November, that means 13 months is not the processing time. All right. Do that math. That means 13 months is not the actual processing time. So it's so good to do that additional step. So just because you did you check the processing time up here, right? And it says 13 months and it's great, but you want to do that additional step of actually checking what do they say is the case, right? If I haven't received a decision, what's the earliest I can contact them? And it says November. November is not 13 months from June 1st, 2022. Okay, you a more realistic expectation of how long the case is actually going to take. So that's a little trick that I use to figure out how long these different field offices are actually taken, and not just what they're telling me is the processing time when you check that processing time. All right. So if you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the comments. I know that was a lot of information, but I think doing these trainings and just showing you in detail how to do these things is going to be helpful so that you are able to actually take charge of your own situation. And especially if you're not able to afford a lawyer to help you with this process, I think you should have a lawyer helping you with the process. But if you're not in a position where that's a possibility, then knowing how to check your case status, knowing how to check the processing time is going to give you peace of mind. All right. If nothing else, it's going to give you peace of mind because you are not freaking out when it's, 5 months down the line and nothing is happening. And you're seeing a case status that says your case has been actively reviewed for 3 months, right? It's been 3 months and they still haven't done anything and it still says actively being reviewed. Well, now you know actively being reviewed is not a real thing. It's just a status. That's all it is. It's just a status. The only time, actually, if you stay this long, I'm gonna give you a bonus tip. The only time that the actively being reviewed case status actually matters is, let's say it's been saying actively being reviewed for months, and you send an expedite request. Right? This is for, let's say you have a work authorization pending and nothing, the case status has not changed for months, and you go ahead and you do an expedite request. You ask them to process it faster because of whatever emergency reasons that you have. And a week goes by, you check your case status, and it says actively being reviewed, and you also see that the date has changed, right? When they do that, they change the date. In those situations, that tells you that an officer has actually seen your request for evidence and is reviewing it to make a decision. So in those situations, that's where actively being reviewed actually makes a difference when you set those expedite requests. But if there's no request, if there's nothing going on, it's just you're waiting for the application actively being reviewed, means absolutely nothing. All right. So if you got this far with me, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. I do these lives every single week on Fridays at 12 o'clock Eastern to basically give you more immigration information. Next week, we are doing Q&A, right? Yes. Next week is the last Friday of the month. It's a 4 Friday month, so it's weird. But yeah, next week is the last Friday of the month. So we are going to be doing Q&As. So please put your questions in the comments. I will basically pull all the comments I've received this month. So you have until the 25th. I try to pull the questions like the day of to make sure that I get everyone's questions in. So if you have questions, you can put it at the bottom of this. Even if you go off next week, you have a question, come back, put the question, because I will be covering it on next week's Q&A session. If you have questions, remember, comment below. And if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions that you want answered, put it in the comments. If it's after the 25th and you have questions, still put it there. I do go back and respond to questions. I don't just hold them for the Q&A sessions. I do respond to you. And then I bring it to everyone else for the Q&As. So that's a good thing there. If you would like a private consultation with me to just talk about your situation and see if we can work with each other, you can do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. All right, I do not see any questions. So I will see you next week with the Q&A. Again, even if you come live next week, you can ask me your questions live. You don't have to ask it ahead of time. If you're live with me, if you're not live with me, put it in the comments and then just watch the Q&A to see your question up there. All right. Have a great rest of your day and I will see you next week. Bye.